devotee will take turns to read. Maybe tomorrow, if Sudevi, you are ready, please let me know that you can chant 15 chapter, and later everyone will get a chance. So today Vrinda will read. Vrinda, you can start reading. Sit here and read.
Shri Bhagavata Vacha Udvabulavadashaka Vashvata Bharulavayam Chandapsiyasya Parani Dasa Vedavid Anastutam Prakatasya Saka Guda Pravidya Visaya Pravana Adashtabula Anushabdatani Karvadubandi Varushaloke Narupamase Hatato Palabhyute Nado Rajade Dasa Sampradishta Ashvattabidam Savirudamulam Asangashasti Namadera Chitra Tada Param Dad Parivaditavya Yasmin Gadana Zivatanti Bhuya Tameva Chadyam Purisham Prabhati Yada Bravitti Brajuta Purani Nirvana Mohajita Sangadusha Adhyatma Nidya Vidivita Kama Tadveva Mukta Sukha Dukha Samjit Gajanta Buddha Pada Bhavrayatan Ratan Bhashayate Surya Rasha Samdora Pavaka Yadagantara Nivardate Danta Babara Baba Babevam Sujiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Saratana Parashastani Dhyani Prakidishtani Karshati Sharira Vedavabrodi Chabrudramatishvara Krihadayadari Samvadi Vayurgadari Vasayat Shodram Chakshus Pasharam Cha Rasaram Gyara Cha Adhishtaya Manashtaya Vishanadu Basevade Utgranantam Stitavapi Punjanam Vavranvitam Vimudarana Pashadi Pashadi Gyana Chakshusa Yatando Yogi Nashena Pashadi Atmanamastidam Yatando Yogi Dhamano Naina Pashata Jinasam Yadanitya Gatadejo Chagat Pashayate Kilam Yachandamasi Yachagno Tanjeno Vinti Babakam Kama Vishyaja Budani Dharayama Mojasha Pushnami Joshate Sarva Samabudmana Sadmata Aham Vashvara Robuti Pranidam Neyamashudha Prana Samasamayukta Pachamyandam Jaturvidam Sarvasya Jaham Siddhi Sandhi Vishnu Madhastu Vignana Moranamja Vedasya Sarve Ahameva Vedo Vedanta Grid Veda Videya Jaham Tamiva Purusha Shara 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 Sarvai Budari Koda Shok Shara Muchade Uttama Purusha Swara Parama Vedanta Roga Baba Vishya Vivanta Vishwara Yashvadakshara Matito Akshara Jatama Atosmi Loki Vedecha Pradita Purushottama Yoma Vegama Sambuddha Gyaradi Purushottama Sasara Vidya Patajivam Sarva Bharera Bharata Idi Guyatamam Shastra Vidam Mayana Gayita Buddhi Vatsat Kita Kita Bharata.
Thank you, Balavinda. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. May I know who all joined this morning?
Hare Krishna, Madhya, Panchang Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. I am Sangeeta from Mumbai.
Hare Krishna, Sangeeta Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining and giving your recitation. Welcome to the call.
Hare Krishna Mata. Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Neetu from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna, Neetu Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining and giving your assistation. Welcome to the call. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha conference call. Today we are very fortunate to have Her Grace Phanesvari Laxmi Mataji to enlighten us on the topic of Caitanya Bhagavat. Before that, I would like to read today's Srila Prabhupada quote. 18th July. I know that if you maintain the association of devotees, your life will be happy and perfect. That is the version of the Shastras. That's the most important thing of spiritual realization, is the company of realized souls or pure devotee of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining and giving your valuable time and association this morning and enlightening us on the topic of Caitanya Bhagavat. Today's verses are 2nd chapter, 43 to 48 verse. So, I now hand over the call, Mataji. Please take over. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for that. What a beautiful quote. It's such a perfect quote for what we're going to be discussing today. Isn't that always the case? So I'll start with the Pranam mantras. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahmahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Bharijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sagana Lalita Sri Visakanvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpatarubhyasya Krupa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishnapadastaya Bhutale Srimati Jayapataka Swami Niti Namane Namo Vishnupadaya Krishnapadastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavati Pastyatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lamdayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Satu Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jai. All glorious assembled devotees, thank you so very much. What a wonderful quote for today. Mataji, can you put the verses on? So,
Yeah, sure, Mataji, I can do that. Give me a minute.
Okay. I can actually read it, but I would like you to do it so for people, if anybody else wants to follow. Okay, so the verses for today are from 43 to 48. So, verse 43. Toma Saba Sevila Se Krishna Bhakti Pai Eti Bali Karo Pai Dhare Se Tanai. 43. I can have devotion to Krishna only by serving you. Saying this, the Lord caught hold of their feet. For an explanation of the first line of this verse, see the purport to verse 41. So the purport to verse 41 says, it says, the second half of verse 41 and the first half of verse 43 are explained as follows. In the Itasha Samuchaya Lomasa Muni states, to attain the mercy of Lord Vishnu, one should satisfy the Vaishnavas. There is no doubt that by their mercy, Vishnu will be pleased. Tasmad Vishnu prasadaya Vaishnavam paritoshayet. Prasada sumukha Vishnus tenaiva syamna samsayaha. Okay, next verse. 44. Nindaye vastrara karo kariye yatane dhuti vastra tuli karo dhapane. He carefully wrung out the water from someone's wet cloth and handed someone else his dhoti. 45. Kusha ganga mrutika kaharo deni kare saji vahi kone dina chale gare. He collected kusha grass and clay from the Ganges for someone, and sometimes he carried a basket of flowers home for someone. 46. Sakala Vaishnava Gana Haya Haya Kare Kekira Kikara Kirara Tubo Tabo Kare Vishwambhare. Although all the Vaishnavas fervently requested him to refrain from such activities, saying, "What are you doing?" Vishwambhara continued to serve them. And 47 and 48. Emati pratidine Prabhu Vishwambhara apana dashara haya apana kinkara kona karma seva kare Prabhu nahi kare seva kari lage nija dharma parihare. In this way, Lord Vishwambhara daily acted as a servant of his own servants. What service is there the Lord will not do for his devotees? The Lord gives up his own position for the sake of his servants. Commentary by His Holiness Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. Although Sri Gaurasundara is directly the Lord of innumerable universes, the spiritual sky, the Vaikunthas, Goloka, and Vrindavan, by personally acting as a servant of his own servants, he began to teach non-duplicitous persons who desire eternal benefit and the service of the Lord, the highest ideal example of serving Vaishnavas. The Lord is worshipable by all persons, yet he gave up his own absolute position and began to act for the pleasure and satisfaction of his own servants. Although it is not the duty of the Lord to serve his servants, there is no activity that he cannot do for the pleasure of his servants. And in this case, he also performed various services for his devotees. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.9.37, Bhishma speaks the following words in reference to Krishna. He promised that he would not take up any weapon for either side in the battle between the Kauravas and Pandavas. I also made a promise that I would make him pick up a weapon, but he is so affectionate to his devotees that in order to keep my promise intact, he broke his own. He got down from the chariot, took his supremely powerful disc, and rushed towards me just as a lion attacks an elephant. At the time, he was so angry, he forgot to act like an ordinary human being. And as he approached, the earth shook from the burden of every step of he who holds all universes within his abdomen. His outer garment fell on the way. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9-14 to 19 and 20, Sri Sukadeva Goswami speaks the following words. The unmanifested person, who is beyond the perception of the senses, had now appeared as a human child, and Mother Yashoda, considering him her own ordinary child, bound him to the wooden mortar with a rope. O Maharaj Parikshit, this entire universe with its great exalted demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Lord Indra, is under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet the Supreme Lord has one transcendental attribute. He comes under the control of his devotees. This was now exhibited by Krishna as this pastime. Neither Lord Brahma, nor Lord Shiva, nor even the goddess of fortune, who is always the better half of the Supreme Lord, can obtain from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the deliverer from this material world, such mercy as received by Mother Yashoda. The Supreme Lord speaks the following words in Srimad Bhagavatam. I am completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I am not at all independent because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires. I sit only within the cores of their hearts. What to speak of my devotees? Even those who are devotees of my devotees are very dear to me. O best of the Brahmanas, without saintly persons, for who I am the only destination, I do not desire to enjoy my transcendental bliss and my supreme opulences. I want to read that one more time. O best of the Brahmanas, without saintly persons, for whom I am the only destination, I do not desire to enjoy my transcendental bliss and my supreme opulence. Since pure devotees give up their homes, wives, children, relatives, riches, and even their lives simply to serve me, without any desire for material improvement in this life or in the next, how can I give up such devotees at any time? As chaste women bring their gentle husbands under control by service, the pure devotees who are equal to everyone and completely attached to me in the court of the heart bring me under their full control. The pure devotee is always within the court of my heart, and I am always with the heart of the pure devotee. My devotees do not know anything else but me, and I do not know anything else but them. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 9:5-15-16, Durvasa speaks to the Supreme Lord as follows. Dushkaro konu sadhunam dushtajo namahatmanam yai sanghito bhagavan satvatam vrishabha harihi yannam sruti matrena puman bhavati nirmala hatsyas tirdapada kimva dashanam avisishyate. For those who have achieved the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master of the pure devotees, what is impossible to do and what is impossible to give up? What is impossible for the servants of the Lord? By the hearing of his holy name, one is purified. Hare Krishna. So I would like to, as here we're speaking about the way the Lord likes to serve his devotees. Some examples were given in the purport, and I was hoping to actually talk about a few other examples of how Lord Caitanya was the example he has given us, but even before him, Krishna actually showed how to serve the devotees. I'm not going to be able to see the screen, so if anybody has any questions, please unmute yourself and ask, because I'm going to be looking at a document, so I won't be able to see what's going on. But let's dive into the activities of the Supreme Lord as he continues to enjoy the relationship between, the reciprocal relationship between the Lord and his devotees. So the first example he's talking about, when Krishna, this is taken from a class given by His Grace, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. So Krishna, we see in the Mahabharata, throughout the Mahabharata, we see so many instances, and the Srimad Bhagavatam, of how the Lord served his devotees. Now, of course, the prime example, we have him acting as the Sarathi, the charioteer. We see him acting as a friend to Arjuna. We see him, of course, serving his parents. We see him serving his other devotees. So I'd like to actually talk about and discuss about these different examples of the Lord and how he reciprocates with his devotees. So, of course, we have the prime example of Krishna acting as the charioteer for Arjuna. Now, in a battle, I don't know if many of you know, but when the charioteer is given the direction by the warrior in the back to in which direction to go, he can't speak over the din of battle. The battle noises are so loud, he can't tell the charioteer where to go. So what he has to do is he has to, with his foot, this is Arjuna, with his foot, he has to hit, not tap, hit on the right shoulder of the Lord when he wants him to go to the right. He has to hit his left shoulder when he wants to go to the left. He hits him in the middle of his back when he wants him to go straight. And just to think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of Lords, he who is the controller of everything, has given his own service as a charioteer of Arjuna to allow himself to be kicked in order to fulfill his role as his charioteer. And he took him into the middle of the armies to see all of his, who was fighting on the different sides. Whatever instruction was given by the warrior, the charioteer needed to follow. One example. Another example in the Mahabharata. I've heard two different versions. When I was a child, the version I heard was that during the Rajasuya sacrifice, all the different family members took different responsibilities during that whole Rajasuya sacrifice. And some were to invite guests, some were collecting all the homages that were brought to the riches and the gifts that were brought to the king Maharaj Yudhishthira, which actually that position, responsibility was given to Duryodhana to collect all the gifts that were given to Maharaj Yudhishthira and take account of those. And what did Lord Krishna do? Now we have to remember that during the Rajasuya sacrifice, somebody is picked to be honored during that sacrifice. Who was picked to be honored? Can somebody tell me who was picked to be honored during that sacrifice? You can unmute yourself and let me know.
Krishna.
Yes, Krishna was honored. Yes. Krishna was given that position of being honored during the Rajasuya sacrifice. But do you know what service he took up? Do you know what service he took up during that sacrifice? There are two different versions. Huh?
Footwear, Mataji, if I remember right, or welcoming the devote people.
Those are the two that I heard, yes.
Yeah.
So one was he volunteered. It's not that he was given this duty. He volunteered to welcome the guests that were coming to the Rajasuya sacrifice and to wash their feet. This he did as a service for his devotee Yudhishthira Maharaj. The other version I heard, which is just as amazing, is that he actually served all of the guests that had come, and he actually also picked up the used vistarakula, the used banana leaves, the vistarakula. He would pick them up and dispose of them. So these are the two versions that I have heard. Again, an example of how the Lord has, for his desire to serve his devotee, he has done such a menial task, as we can say. Another example. So, another example in the Mahabharata war. During before the war started, there was a discussion. The Pandavas had decided that they were going to try to come to a compromise. Try to see if they can come to a compromise with the Kauravas. And who did they send as the messenger? Who was the Raibaram? Who was the Dhota? Who was the person the postman, as you will? Who was the postman for this service? Again,
Lord Krishna.
Right, Lord Krishna. Again, Lord Krishna took the service for Maharaj Yudhishthira to bring the message to the Kauravas about some kind of compromise. This is where Krishna requests, can you at least give them 5 villages to a compromise? Because being of the Kshatriya class, they needed to be able to, their vritti was, their dharma was to actually rule, to be rulers or something. So Lord Krishna, the request was at least give them 5 villages, 1 for each of the brothers, so that they could fulfill their dharma. Wasn't even requesting anything big, 5 villages, when they had the entire world, 5 villages. And what does Duryodhana say? I will not even give it enough land in which you can stick a pin, the head of a pin, a needle. So as Prabhupada calls him, he was the postal peon. So even Krishna took this position to show his love for his devotees. In fact, during that time, Duryodhana also was trying to actually imprison Krishna. And then Vidura, being the advisor to the king, actually told him, that is not proper, that you should not, the messenger should never be harmed when he's bringing the information. he is able to go freely back and forth. If you think about it, what a change in the military, etiquette. But at that time, that's what it was. And then, of course, he was his friendship with Arjuna. He would sit together with Arjuna. He would talk together with Arjuna. They would laugh together. Now, remember, Arjuna asked to Krishna, please show me your universal form. So he sees this universal form, this amazing form, Bhayankaram, a fearful form. So he realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but yet Krishna and Arjuna has a beautiful relationship. They would sit together, they would talk together, they would laugh together, they would eat together, and they would travel together. In fact, Krishna behaved with Arjuna in such a way that Arjuna sometimes, by the power of Yogamaya, would forget that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, although he was shown the universal form. Of course, we have this example. Srila Prabhupada obviously many times gives the example of how the president, I think it's the president, when his son comes, we see the president as the president, but with his family, in particular with his children, he is not the president. He's the horsey, right? So we see, I think that I can't remember completely the example. Was it that somebody came to visit, I don't know if it was a prime minister or president, and they said, I'm sorry, you can't come visit him right now. He's very, very busy. So they looked through the keyhole to see what he was doing, and he was playing horsey with his grandson. Can't remember which exactly the whole details were. But in this way, and the president, who has such a high position, has so much enjoyment by being in this relationship, this loving reciprocal relationship with his grandson. Or when, and I can attest to this fact also, I have two brothers, and I remember how my father and my brother would enjoy wrestling all the time. They would wrestle together. And there were times where my father would win, but there were many times when my father would allow my brothers to beat him. And so this was just reciprocal relationship. So in the same way, also, Krishna enjoys this reciprocal relationship with his devotees, where they can show him his love, and he loves coming under their control. And of course, the prime example of that is Mother Yashoda. In the Damodar Leela, we have this wonderful example of how Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, first of all, runs away from his mother, fearful that she's going to beat him with a stick for having broken the milk pots and thrown all the butter and the yogurt and feed all the monkeys and made a total mess. So fearful he is, as his mother is chasing him. And as she chases him and he sees her perspiring and getting so tired, and out of love for his mother, he allows himself to be bound. He allows himself to be bound, not only by the ropes, but by the ropes of her love. So that is how we bind the Lord, by the ropes of our love. And so Mother Yashoda is a perfect example, because, he's running away from him, running away from her in fear, but he allows, and for a moment, as I said previously, covered by Yogamaya, he forgets that he's Krishna. But of course, this is also his desire and part of his Leela, in order for him to be able to allow himself to be under the control of his devotees. Perfect example of Mother Yashoda. And of course, we have Nanda Maharaj. And of course, the photo that was posted in our Bhakti Sangha for today, perfect example. So Nanda Maharaj comes home and he's wondering, where is my boy? Where is my Nandu? Where is my little son? Where is my wonderful son? Does he do anything else besides play? Does he do any work, or is he just a mischief maker? And then Mother Yashoda would say, Gopal, bring Nanda Maharaj your father's shoe, bring your father's shoe. And Krishna would run and he would take the wooden shoes of Nanda Maharaj, with great difficulty put them upon his head. And with his little baby steps, walk to his father, and he would give them to his father and say, here are your wooden slippers. And taking those shoes, which represents all these, which represents the love of his devotees also, right? That's his devotees' shoes that he's placed upon his head. And then what does he do? Krishna and Nanda Maharaj, feeling so much love for his son. Very well, very good. Come on, come. Very nice, Lord Krishna. He's holding within his arms. So here we say again, and wherever he came in contact with all of the elders, he would offer respects. We have the example that when he came to see the Pandavas, he would go and offer respects to the elders first. He would pay obeisances to Yudhishthira Maharaj, to all the Pandavas that were older than him. He would pay obeisances. He would hug his close friends, and those that were younger than he would bless. So we see this reciprocal relationship of Krishna with his devotees. And of course, greater than everybody is, of course, the gopis. And the gopis, we can see that they left everything. There would be even times when they would chastise Krishna. Before we get to the gopis, first we should get to his friends. Let's get to his gopa friends. So his gopa friends, Krishna allows himself. There's the example of how they are during the Brahma Vimohan Leela, when they're all sitting around Krishna and they're sharing their prasadam that their mothers have packed. They're sharing their prasadam. Each one is giving the other one, what do you have? Let me see what you have. Tasting each other's prasad, tasting each other's, in fact, taking it from Krishna's mouth himself. So what is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, again, who is with great awe and reverence, is worshipped by all the demigods and Mother and Goddess of Fortune, Laxmi Devi. But here, he's with his friends, sharing ingri, jute, right? He's sharing all these morsels of food from his friends. So this is this wonderful example, another example of these close relationships. So in these relationships, we see these different rasas, right? The five different, the main four that we talk about. We have Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. So we've seen these four different things. We've seen the Gopaka, seen the Gopas, we've seen Arjuna, we've seen Mother Yashoda with the Nanda Maharaj. And then we saw, of course, now we see the gopis themselves. And the gopis themselves, he says, right, there are instances when they chastise Krishna, when they have, yet they have left all their families, and they would come and they would follow wherever he came. And Krishna himself says that they're my gopis. What does he say? He says, the gopis have given so much. My devotees have sacrificed their lives for me, and therefore I have sacrificed my life for my devotees. They know no one but me, and I know no one but them. I am their heart, and they are my heart. This is bhakti. So you see, this is the way this relationship with Krishna is how he shows. Not only, as I said, gopis, but we have, let's see, what does he say about the gopis? He said, the gopis, sometimes they would chastise him. Sometimes they would actually accuse him of many bad names. The whole world is glorifying the Supreme Lord in the songs of the Devas. In the Old Testament, there are so many glorifications of great reverence to God, the Almighty. The Quran is filled with so many prayers to God, the Almighty, Allah. In the Vedas, in the Upanishads, there are so many wonderful, wonderful sutras, slokas glorifying the Almighty Supreme Godhead, the cause of all causes. Srila Prabhupada explained that Krishna is glorified eternally on all the Vaikuntha planets by all devotees in the material world. Sometimes he wants something else. He wants someone to chastise him. He wants to experience the intimacy of love. So who is it that can chastise? Only the pure devotees, right? And, Krishna reveals these inner truths of his nature only to those who surrender to him by his loving service. Maharaj Parikshit, he was so overwhelmed with devotion upon hearing these wonderful pastimes that he actually, he saw the symptoms of the advanced soul, and he loved to hear these glories of the Lord, and he never tired of hearing these glories of the Lord. And so we have all these examples, and but the devotees want this pure devotees, this reciprocal relationship with the Lord and Krishna. Not only do the devotees want to please Krishna in any way, Krishna wants to come under the control of his devotees. And of course, here we have the example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, who wanting to feel that love that a devotee feels for him. My Guru Maharaj would give the example of how in the spiritual world, he said that the devotees want to please Krishna. And when they please Krishna and they see his enjoyment, they get so much bliss. But when Krishna sees that bliss, he wants to reciprocate with them and he becomes blissful. And then when they see his bliss, again, they want to do something and they reciprocate. So it's a continuous growing and higher and higher and higher degrees of enjoyment by just serving each other. So, if even Krishna wanted to experience the ecstasy of these devotees, the devotees desiring to become the father, the friend, or the lover of God, to do that service. To them, it's a service to God. They're not doing it because they want to be the father of God. I'm the father of God, or I'm the lover of God, or it's not a ego boost for them. It's not something to make them feel proud. It's for them, given the opportunity for them to serve full-heartedly from within their heart. So in that way of a parent in Vatsalya, in the way of a friend in Satya, in the way of a servant in Dasya, or in the way of a lover in Madhurya, it's only in those relationships that one can actually, from within their heart, really, really show their love to the Lord. But so Krishna could not understand that. Remember the pastime where Rukmini said, you can never understand what your devotees are feeling. I know something that you don't know. You can never understand the love we're feeling. You can never understand the ecstasy. And so what does Krishna do? He wants to experience the ecstasy of his devotees, and therefore he personally appeared as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just to experience the nature of love of his own devotees. And during the Rath Yatra, Lord Chaitanya was in the role of a devotee before Jagannath. And Jagannath himself was experiencing greater ecstasy as his devotee. And then he was sitting on the Jagannath cart. It's such a irony, or what's the right word for that? Jagannath himself has come to feel what it feels like to serve Jagannath. And in that position, he is enjoying that position even more than the Jagannath himself. Does that make sense? Amazing, right? And the reciprocation was something wonderful. This is the supreme lila, the supreme realization, the realization of bhakti, the love between the Lord and his devotees. And this Krishna consciousness movement is meant to give entrance into this realization to all living beings by simply living as a servant of the Lord, simply following the principles of Krishna consciousness and attentively chanting the holy names. By the mercy of Guru and Krishna, we can naturally realize our eternal loving relationship with Lord Krishna, which is the perfection and fulfillment of all souls' desires. So isn't that amazing? The amazing gift that we have been given by Srila Prabhupada. Many times when we become entrenched in material life, when we become overburdened with our responsibilities, and sometimes even become overburdened for what we desire to do for Krishna, we may forget what is our real goal. The real goal is love. The real goal is reciprocation. The real goal is connecting with Krishna. The real goal is to actually feel that one. All these different processes that we do, all these different vratas we do, all these different austerities we perform, all this chanting we do. Sometimes we may get caught up in, I have to finish my rounds, I have to finish my rounds. But the thought should be, Krishna, help me remember you. Krishna, help me remember you. Krishna, help me remember. The rounds we will get done. But our request is, Krishna, please show me the way. And as I said, with all the different things that we have in our life, both material and spiritual, let's not forget our goal. Let's not forget what the true essence of Krishna consciousness is. The true essence of Krishna consciousness is to connect with the Lord so that we can fill our heart with the Lord. And the reason why I said this, with Radhika Kasturi Mataji's class yesterday, this line stuck out for me, which I wanted to read. And it says, when in the material life of a wandering soul when the material life of a wandering soul has ceased, O Arjuna, he may attain the association of your devotees. And when he associates with them, there awakens in him devotion unto you, who are the goal of the devotees and the Lord of all causes and their effects. Amazing verse. Because if you think about this verse, as she was saying yesterday, bhakti just is a cause of bhakti, right? But just think about it, just by coming in contact with that devotee, it awakens in our heart. It's already there. So let's not get overwhelmed by all the things we want to do to impress ourselves, maybe, or even put so much burden on ourselves that we forget the sweetness of Krishna consciousness. I know, and I'm saying this out of personal experience, sometimes I get overwhelmed by all the things I want to do, all the vratas I want to follow. But remember, the goal of Krishna consciousness is love. And we should do those things that help us, that encourage us, that support us on our way to Krishna. And if those things, although they may be good things, if they become a hindrance or hamper us or give us, what is the word I'm thinking? Burden us. I guess the word is that burden us, then we should rethink what our goal is. Our goal again is sadhu sangha and love of Krishna, right? And through the process of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And remember, chanting is the key. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. As we chant the holy name of the Lord, let's meditate on these beautiful pastimes. Let's meditate upon this beautiful relationship. Let's ask him, please, Krishna, it is only by the mercy of Guru and you, it is only by the mercy of the Vaishnavas that I am able to taste and come in contact with your love. Please, please, please give me the association of your devotees. Please give me taste for the chanting of the holy name. And please always help me by giving me the courage, right? Utsaham nischayat dhairya, the courage, the patience, and the determination to follow in the footsteps of the Vaishnavas. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna, that's all I have for you. If there are any comments, questions, examples, there are many more examples of how the Lord served his devotees. One other, I just remembered one other thing very quickly. We have, if anybody has any questions, comments, or corrections, please to chime in. Thank you very much. Sorry, today's Purushottam Mas, and I'm just so excited to be here and allowing me. This is my first, to be able to present this morning. I feel very, very blessed to be able to do that. I thank you very much. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna Mataji, such a beautiful class, Mataji. Really, it was soaking in nectar with all the different, especially the examples you gave of how Krishna gives himself to his devotees, in such a menial way. It's it kind of moved me. Yesterday also Radhika and I were discussing something on the same term. She was also saying like, the idea that how Krishna gives himself to his devotees is something which, she every day, all the time she keeps thinking of that, and she feels like miserable in some sense, like how Krishna can be like that. So thank you so much, Mataji, for the beautiful meditation. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Sukasagari Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Phanesvari Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for this very nectarian class. Really loved how, when we are chanting, and I do this a lot, is that when I'm chanting, I just want to make sure that I get through my rounds, finish my rounds. That's the goal. The goal is really not that, really, Krishna, I want to connect with you. And after I'm done, I would be like, oh, okay, what have I done here? Because I have lost the purpose of my chanting. Why am I chanting that way? Many times it's like, okay, they tell us we need to focus on the Maha Mantra. And while we are focusing on the Maha Mantra, we also need to make sure that we're thinking of the Lord and, the message that, Srimati Radharani, oh, Sri Krishna, please engage me in your service. It's so difficult for me to put those two together and then think of the Maha Mantra and then think of this. So sometimes, yeah, but all we want to establish there is a connection, and you put that together so beautifully, Mataji. And like what even Sukasagari Mataji was saying, it is so difficult for us, and even while reading the verses, it was so hard to see how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even Lord Krishna, how they want to reciprocate with the Vaishnavas, how they want to serve their own devotees. It's so difficult to envision that. Thank you so much. Yeah, very beautiful class. Hare Krishna. Lovely meditation. Mataji, did you want to share something on Purushottam month? Because this is the first day on what we should meditate on this month. Hare Krishna.
Yes, so actually Purushottam Mas, we meditate upon the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, right? And there are the verses that we chant specifically for that. We should always, as I said, we should increase bhakti in some way, but we should not overload it. I think that's the important thing. Purushottam Mas, we have so many things, there's so many things you can do. Chant the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, chant extra rounds, serve the Vaishnavas, distribute books, right? Get up earlier, maybe eat only twice a day or eat only once a day or do some kind of ekadasi, some kind of, fast. There's so many different things, but as I was saying before, please pick those. The important thing is to make a sankalpa or make a promise to do something, and do something that that you can attain. One thing that you can attain with all the responsibilities you have, something that you can take and fulfill that completely. So find a balance between what you can do with what your responsibilities. Sometimes when we see different people are, I'm reading the whole Bhagavad Gita every day, or I'm reading the 15th chapter, and I'm also only fasting. I'm only eating twice a day, and I'm getting up early, and I'm chanting extra rounds, and I'm also going on book distribution. We hear these different stories of different devotees who are doing so many different things, and we get a little bit sometimes overwhelmed, and sometimes like, maybe I should be doing more. Maybe I should be doing more. Remember, each person is an individual. Your relationship with Krishna is individual. Please understand what you are capable of doing And don't shortchange your responsibilities in the name of Purushottamas. Okay, so that's also very important. I think many times we in householder life, we may shortchange our different responsibilities to our other family members in the name of Purushottamas. Let's not do this. Okay, so do something that will maintain equilibrium in your devotional life. Hare Krishna. I'm sorry, I'm preaching again. I don't mean to. It's the grandma in me that does this. I got to get out of that.
But Mataji, you raised a very valid point, because even today morning also, this was the topic, is that so many austerities are there, but what are the austerities that we really would like to maintain throughout the year? Like austerity of not criticizing anyone during this month, making sure that we behave nicely, being good Vaishnavas. Those seem to be more important than definitely being so difficult on ourselves sometimes. And like what you said, there is a lot of times we are under a lot of pressure, peer pressure actually. So we need to think through it and do what's possible. Thank you so much. That's a very, very nice information and nice piece of advice actually. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Say something.
Hare Krishna Mataji, what an amazing class. I think the mood of the class was so beautiful. You made us love Krishna, that is the thing. Because every time you spoke about Krishna's relationship with each one of the different kinds of devotees, you made us appreciate Krishna actually. How sweet is Krishna, how nice is Krishna, how approachable is Krishna. Thank you so much for setting that mood, Mataji. It was so lovely. And I always look forward to hearing your piece of advice, because they are very genuine from the heart, and you always have concern for everybody, and that's the reason you give such genuine advice. So I'm so grateful to you. Thank you for that. It's a very beautiful start for this Purushottam month. Very grateful for the association. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. All glories to Guru Maharaj, praise to temple, to the assembled devotees.
Mataji, do you want to answer the question in the chat?
What is the question in the chat? Let me see if I can see it. Do you want to read it to me?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji, this is from Yashomati Mataji. Danvat Pranam, such a beautiful class. How Krishna helped his devotees. How we should chant with begging mercy from Krishna. Thank you very much, Mataji, for giving the tips. I believe she's just thanking you. Hari
Oh,
Bol.
yeah. I think they're just,
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Yashomati Mataji, if you're there, do you want to unmute yourself?
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to you, Mataji. Very, very grateful and very beautiful class. And you give all the relationship with Krishna and his devotees. You give so many good examples. So I should always remember that example. So Krishna always with everyone. And you give the very, very good tips that how we should chant. When we chant, we have to remember Krishna and we have to beg to Krishna for helping us how to chant, and our conscious go in him. So it's very, very nice class, Mataji. So grateful to you, Mataji.
Thank you, Swadha Mataji. All glories, Prabhupada. Thank you very much.
All glories to all the devotees.
Yeah, and hope Yashomati Mataji has recovered well. She had a surgery, so prayers.
Yeah, Mataji, little bit better.
Good.
Thank you so much. Dandat Pranam.
Anyone else with any other questions, comments, or realizations? Okay, so if we don't have any more questions or comments, we can end the call here. Thank you, dear devotees, for joining us. Thank you so much, Phanesvari Laxmi Mataji, for this very, very sweet meditative class. And thank you for accepting our invitation to speak.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the call here.
Mataji, happy Purushottam Mass to everyone. Sorry.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripasindhubhyeva patitanam pavane. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Jai.
Bhagavad
Jai.
Gita.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
So much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for such a wonderful class, Mataji. Hare Krishna.